All righty. Good evening, everyone. And good evening, Chair Harrington. Over to you.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Tuesday, March 18th, 2025, Washington County Board of Commissioners meeting. Clerk Musk, could you do us the honors, please?
Certainly, Chair Harrington. The Washington County Board of Commissioners, also meeting as the Board of Directors for Clean Water Services and all other county service districts, is meeting this regular session, March 18th, 2025. Commissioner Fye?
Present.
Commissioner Willie?
Here.
Commissioner Schneider?
Here.
Chair Harrington?
Here.
And Commissioner Treese is excused for tonight.
Yep, she's on vacation. Next item on the agenda is public communication, but before we get to that, I want to make sure everybody knows that item D1 has been pulled and item E3 has been revised. So, on to public communication. This is an opportunity for members of our community to come and share their thoughts with the board on any topic they would like for up to 2 minutes an individual, 10 minutes total. Clerk Moss, who do we have tonight?
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. The first two we have is Dale Feek, followed by Terry Wagner, followed by Sandra Nelson, and then Mary C.
Gotta go solo, buddy.
Just as a reminder for everybody, we want to make sure that this environment is a free and open environment for anyone to participate. So as usual, clapping and cheering does not fit into maintaining an open environment for free communication, because that may make that one person that we are trying to encourage to come and share their thoughts with us uncomfortable for moving forward. So certainly can do a silent clap if you'd like. And many of you have brought signs previously. You can still wave those up momentarily and put them back down. So thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Feek.
Madam Chair Harrington and Commissioners, I'm Dale Feek, lived in Forest Grove since 1966, former special ed teacher. And what I sent to you by email, and now you have in front of you, is an opinion piece by Nicholas Kristof, New York Times Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist. And so the topic of his opinion was, Musk said no one has died since aid was cut. That isn't true. As the world's richest man sliced American aid for the world's poorest children, they insist that all is well. No one has died as a result of a brief pause to do a sanctity check on foreign funding, Elon Musk said. No one, Kristof says. That is not true. In South Sudan, one of the poorest countries, efforts by Musk and President Trump are already leading children to die. Peter Donnelly was a 10-year-old infected with HIV from his mother during childbirth, but American aid kept Peter strong even as his parents died from AIDS. A program started by President George Bush called PEPFAR saved 26 million lives with AIDS, and one was Peter's. Under PEPFAR, an outreach health worker ensured that Peter and other AIDS orphans got their medicines. Then in January, Trump and Musk effectively shuttered the U.S. Agency of International Development, perhaps illegally, and that PEPFAR outreach program ended. Orphans were on their own. Without the help of a community health worker, Peter was unable to get his medicine, so he became sick and died in late February, according to whatever. All right, so the immediate cause of death was an opportunist pneumonia infection by Peter's viral load increased and his immunity diminished. If U.S. aid would be here, Peter Donnelly would have not died, period. In other words, Trump and Musk are killing people based upon their actions. That's a fact. As my good friend says, that's a fact, but I'll always give you my opinion, and I agree with the opinion of Kristof and my own opinion. Thank you.
Yes, Terry?
Terry Wagner, and then Sandra Nelson, I believe, is next, and Mary Hokiopoulos, you'll be after that. Yes. Go ahead, Ms. Wagner.
Good evening. My name is Terry Wagner.
I am here today asking you to join with the Enhanced Sheriff's Patrol Districts Advisory Committee and fully support the Sheriff's Office during this budget cycle, ensuring our residents receive the level of public safety they deserve and have paid for. The Sheriff's Office public safety positions are funded by ESPD, the Public Safety Local Option Levy, and the General Fund. Since its establishment in 1987, ESPD has been providing comprehensive police services for over 200,000 residents in unincorporated Washington County, which exceeds the population of every city in Oregon except Portland. For over 35 years, every ESPD levy has been overwhelmingly approved by voters. ESPD and the Public Safety Levy have been able to keep up with the funding needed for deputy positions, but the General Fund is currently short 14 positions, decreasing our officers per thousand ratios to dangerous levels. And as the level of GF-funded positions continue to decline, it increases the burden on ESPD. As population increases in the county, regardless of inside or outside of ESPD, it is very important to maintain or increase our staffing levels. Residents and workers in Washington County travel across invisible lines all day, every day, and workers in Washington County, likewise with the residents, travel across all of these invisible lines. When law enforcement is needed, people do not care which uniform they are wearing, only that they are safe. If we allow staffing to decrease, it has a negative impact on the safety of all citizens in Washington County. We are truly one Washington County. Public safety is an essential service that all residents expect and deserve from their county government. We ask you to stand with us, prioritize and fully support the Sheriff's Office. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wagner. On behalf of the board, I'd like to ensure that you have the opportunity to both join the Zoom meeting this evening, where we're having a budget committee meeting to be on the journey, followed by our meeting on April 28th, which is the publication of the budget, where we will all be learning together what budget decisions Ms. Angie has made in meeting Oregon state law and providing us with a balanced proposed budget.
Thank you for the invitation.
You bet. Go ahead, Ms. Nelson.
Good evening, Chair Harrington and Commissioners. My name's Sandra Nelson. I've been a resident of Washington County for 40-plus years, and I'm representing just myself this evening. I'd like to share just a few thoughts regarding invocations. Following are just a couple of paragraphs from the Municipal Research and Services Center, a nonprofit organization that helps local governments better serve their communities by providing legal and policy guidance on any topic. Quote, the U.S. Supreme Court dealt with this issue of prayers and invocations in Town of Greece versus Galloway in 2014. The court ruled that starting local government meetings with a prayer does not violate the Establishment Clause of the United States Constitution. The court also ruled that requiring the invocation to be non-sectarian would force the governmental body to act as supervisors or censors of religious speech. From the nation's earliest days, invocations have been addressed to assemblies comprising many different creeds, striving for the idea that people of many faiths may be united in a community of tolerance and devotion, even if they disagree as to religious doctrine, unquote. Eventually, I'd like to present to the board a formal invocation resolution for your consideration, perhaps similar to the one adopted by the Clark County, Washington Board of County Councilors. But for now, in the spirit of love for our community and our heritage, I would like to offer a brief invocation. Father in heaven, your word urges us to pray for all people, including those in government, that we may lead peaceful and quiet lives, godly and dignified in every way. In humble response to your word, we do thank you for our county commissioners and pray that you will give them your wisdom and blessing as they seek the good of the community they serve. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you.
Right. Mary, you're up next.
Good evening, Chair Harrington and Commissioners. I'm Mary Halkiopoulos, a resident of Washington County. This is a follow-up to our recent presentations regarding the early ballots that were received during the November general election. As you may recall, 5,871 ballots were received on September 23rd, 2024, beyond the number of uniformed and overseas ballots in circulation. On February 25th, 25, we provided you with a list of 442 of those individuals who did not appear on either the August or October 1st, 2024 Washington County voter rolls, but whose ballots were received on September 23rd. We conducted a further review of the registration records of those individuals using the December and January voter rolls. We found that most of those who were added new to the voter rolls were added after the September 23rd date. 41 of them were added to the voter rolls after the October 15th, 2024 voter registration deadline. These individuals were not previously registered anywhere in Oregon. 16 of the 41 were from overseas, and 25 were from Washington County. In fact, 15 were registered in November, but their ballots were received on September 23rd. This constitutes 41 violations of ORS 247-025, which designates the deadline for new registrants as 21 days prior to Election Day, which was October 15th. We have presented you with many statute violations from this past election, including the violation of ORS 254-525, requiring completion of the final public test prior to certification of election results, which carries with it fines and penalties. So how many violations does it take for the board to take action to fix our election system? It's precisely because we're a home rule county that Washington County residents pay for local elections, and why you are ultimately responsible for ensuring they're accurate and trustworthy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is Sherry Steller here? Sherry? Not seeing her, so we'll move to the last one. Bill Malloy. Bill?
Commissioners, I'd like to invite you and the audience to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag.
I will once again stay seated as I do not support any member of our community taking over our meeting. United States of America.
Thank you.
As I said, I once again stay seated because I don't believe in audience members taking over our meeting. Thank you very much. Next, we'll move on to our consent agenda. Today's consent agenda consists of 13 items, 2 sets of minutes, 6 items from Clean Water Services, 2 items from Land Use and Transportation, 1 item from the County Administrative Office, 1 item from Human Resources, and 1 item from Finance. What are the wishes of the commission?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor of adopting today's consent agenda, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. You did yours, right? Okay, thank you. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 4-0. Next, we'll move on to public hearings. Item 1 was removed from the agenda, so we'll move right into item 2. To hold a public hearing to approve the sale of county-owned property. And we have Mr. Greg Wyman to offer us a staff report.
Thank you, Chair Harrington. Good evening, board members. For the record, my name is Greg Wyman. I'm the Facilities Division Manager here at Washington County. Tonight I will present a brief staff report on the property acquired by the county in 2014 through the property tax foreclosure process, and also known as Tax Lot 2S121AB00100, located directly north of the Tualatin River in unincorporated Washington County. This property was identified by staff to be included in the most recent real property auction held on March 12, 2025. As part of the process, identified properties are circulated to other county departments, governmental jurisdictions, special districts, and qualified community-based local nonprofits for their review and request for transfer for public use. The City of King City requests transfer of this county-owned parcel and has offered $70,000 for the transfer and is responsible for the recording fees and title transfer. Oregon Revised Statute 271.330, subparagraph 2, authorizes any political subdivision to relinquish title to any of its property not needed for public use to another governmental jurisdiction. The statute requires that if the property is from a tax foreclosure, notice of the transfer of the property to be placed in a newspaper of general circulation for 2 successive weeks. This requirement has been met. Please note that the newspaper advertisement stated the property as 0.07 acres in size. It is actually 1.06 acres in size. Washington County has no current public use for the property. The City of King City has identified the property as essential to achieve its strategic and operational goal of providing direct access to the Tualatin River through their public parks and trails. Staff recommends the request be approved by your board. The statute requires that a public hearing be held, and after any objections are heard, the county may proceed with this transfer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wyman. And with that, I'd like to open a public hearing. Is there anyone who wishes to speak today on this matter?
Would anyone like to testify for up to 2 minutes on this public hearing? Not seeing one raising a hand or coming forward. Would any member via Zoom like to provide public testimony on this public hearing item? As you've heard the staff report, give you a moment to utilize raise hand function. Not seeing any hands. Chair Harrington.
Okay, thank you. With that, I'll close today's public hearing and ask for a motion from the board to approve a sale of the county-owned property with the tax ID as documented to the City of King City for the consideration of $70,000, and approve having myself as board chair to execute the quick claim deeds with a restriction and reversionary clause.
I move to approve the sale.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, commissioners. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 4-0. Next, we'll move on to a similar but different item related to considering the annexation of 2 tax lots totaling approximately 4.75 acres into the Tualatin Hills Park and Recreation District. Welcome.
Thank you, Commissioner Harrington. Good evening. I'm Carol Johnson, Planning and Development Manager with the Land Use and Transportation Department. I am joined this evening by Tricia Garisco, Associate Planner in our Community Planning section. We're here to present for your consideration annexations of 2 lots to the Tualatin Hills Park and Recreation District. Tricia will present the staff report.
So I think this is a different presentation.
Yes, it is.
You want to talk about nonprofits?
I was thinking, what does LUT has to do with, so.
It's over there in the bottom.
Good evening, Chair Harrington and Commissioners. For the record, I am Tricia Garisco, Associate Planner with Land Use and Transportation, and I will be giving a brief presentation on proposed boundary change 25-001, which is a request to annex 2 tax lots into Tualatin Hills Park and Recreation District. Thank you. The subject properties are located in unincorporated Washington County inside the UGB. The properties total approximately 4.75 acres in size and are shown here in dark gray, north of Northwest Thompson Road, west of Northwest Salzman Road, and south of Northwest Payne Drive. The lighter gray area shows the current extent of the THPRD boundary in the vicinity. This proposal is a request by the contract purchaser, Noise Development Company, and as previously mentioned, it's a request to annex 2 tax lots totaling approximately 4.75 acres into the Tualatin Hills Park and Recreation District in order to serve future development. This annexation request was initiated by a consent petition from the property owner. County staff has reviewed the request and found that it meets the criteria for boundary changes as outlined in the staff report. Staff recommends that the board conduct the public hearing and at the conclusion of the hearing, adopt the resolution and order approving the annexation into THPRD, with the approval becoming effective today, March 18th. If there is any public testimony today, there is a brief statement I will need to read into the record.
Thank you. Board members, are there any questions on the staff report?
No.
Seeing none, I'd like to open the public hearing. Clerk Moss, do we have anyone who wishes to speak on this matter?
Thank you, Chair Harrington. No one signed up in the back of the room. Would any member wish to provide public testimony on this public hearing as now? Raise your hand or start coming forward. Not seeing any in the room. Would any member online via Zoom wish to provide public comment on this public hearing for up to 2 minutes? Give you just a moment to utilize raise hand function. Not seeing any hands, Chair Harrington.
Thank you, Clerk Moss. And with that, I will close today's public hearing on this matter and ask for a motion to adopt the resolution and order approving the annexation with the approval becoming effective March 18th, 2025, and authorize myself as chair to sign the resolution and order for Service District Annexation 25-001 LRP/BC.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, commissioners. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 4-0. Next, we'll move on to item D4 for the second reading and first public hearing of proposed ordinance number 905. So first, could we have a motion to read ordinance number 905 by title only?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, commissioners. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 4-0. Ms. Duke-Dreesen, could you please read ordinance number 905 by title only?
Yes, Madam Chair. Ordinance number 905, an ordinance amending Chapter 3.48 of the Washington County Code relating to nonprofit corporation low-income housing tax exemptions.
Thank you. And next, we'll have a staff report. Please, Jill Chen.
Thank you, Chair Harrington, Commissioners. For the record, I'm Jill Chen, Assistant Director of the Department of Housing Services, and we are here to present the Nonprofit Corporation Tax Exemption Tax Exemption Program. With me is my colleague, Melissa Daly, Senior Program Coordinator.
Thanks, Jill. So a little history of this program. It was adopted by the state of Oregon in 1985. It allows jurisdictions to opt in to this property tax waiver for the nonprofit-owned affordable housing. And there is a slight typo here. It is as long as 51% of the taxes are waived. So for us, that ends up being ourselves, Washington County, and then the school districts, as they are the largest taxing entity, I'm sure within all counties of Oregon, definitely within Washington County. The Washington County Board of Commissioners adopted this, our own ordinance in March of 2013. And over time, over 10 years, the state ordinance has been updated, and so it seemed a good time, since this does cause confusion among applicants, for our ordinance to be different. Next slide. So we do have 11 total projects consisting of 13 tax lots that we granted the property tax exemption to in our current tax year. So for the taxes that were due by October of last year. And as you can see, the total amount of taxes waived was around $634,000, of which Washington County's portion was approximately $136,000. So a very, very small percent of Washington County's total taxes that does a world of good for our affordable housing partners and residents. Next. A summary of the changes are that we will increase the income for tenants from 60 to 80% of AMI after the first year of tenancy. There will be income averaging allowed, which is any low-income housing tax credit project starting around last year, I think, does allow for tenants to go up to 80% of AMI, with still the average income of the entire property being under 60% AMI. It will limit the vacant land exemption to 5 years instead of allowing it in perpetuity. We would also apply the tax exemption, be more specific about it being for nonprofit owners, and generally align with the text of the state statute, Scrivener's errors, and things such as that. So that's the end of our presentation.
Thank you. Commissioners, I know we had this before us in work session not too long ago, but do you have any questions tonight?
I do not.
Seeing none, I would ask for, I will open the public hearing. Clerk Moss, do we have anyone who wishes to testify on this matter?
We did not have anyone sign up with the room. Would any member in the audience wish to provide public testimony on this public hearing? Give a moment to raise your hand, start coming forward. Not seen in the room. Would any member online wish to provide public comment on this public hearing? Give you just a moment to utilize raise hand function. Not seeing any hands. Chair Harrington.
And with that, we'll close the public hearing. And Clerk Moss, let's see. First, we'll ask for a motion to adopt ordinance number 905.
I'll move. Oh, sorry, Mr. Willie.
Commissioner Willie will move. Commissioner Snyder will second. So we have a motion to adopt ordinance 905. Clerk Moss, could you take the roll, please?
Certainly. Commissioner Fye?
Aye.
Commissioner Schneider?
Yes.
Commissioner Willie?
Yes.
Chair Harrington.
Yes. Motion passes unanimously 4-0. Next, we will move on to item D5, which is a proposal for our supplemental budget. And we invite up to the table our interim chief financial officer, John Steyer, and our budget manager, Steve Kang. Welcome.
Good evening, Chair and Board. I'm John Steyer. I'm the Interim Chief Financial Officer. I'm joined today with our Budget Manager, Steve Kang. For your consideration today is our spring supplemental budget adjustment to the county's fiscal year 25 budget. Our fiscal year 25 budget was adopted in June of 24, authorizing appropriations for fiscal year beginning 1 July 24. During the fiscal year, changes occur in revenue sources or expenditures that require your board's approval to modify or the adopted budget. Supplementals are necessary as requirements change throughout the fiscal year. The supplemental process ensures appropriate review and transparency of budget changes in accordance with budget law. Our departments have 3 opportunities to adjust their budgets for the current fiscal year. The first one was done in the fall, in November 5th, and this is the second, our spring supplemental request. And departments will have a final opportunity in June to make any additional changes as things arise during the year. The purpose of a supplemental request is really threefold. One, to increase the amount of appropriations in the fiscal year 25 budget based on several factors, including new or additional revenue received, projected expenditure increases, and clerical administrative adjustments that weren't known at budget adoption or during the previous supplemental opportunity. Second is to provide an explanation of the change, including source of funding. And third, to request the board's approval to increase the appropriation levels. The total requested appropriation increase in this supplemental request is $5.7 million, spread across 12 funds and 12 individual requests from departments. 7 requests are an increase in appropriation because of an increase in existing grant or addition of new revenue totaling $2.9 million. 4 are increases that are funded from a transfer of contingency and the result of rate increases or administrative corrections to the budget for a total of $924,000 in general fund and $230,000 from special funds. And then 1 item is a transfer of appropriations between funds. The details of the budget adjustments are in your packets. This concludes my staff report. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Commissioners, do you have any questions?
I don't. It seemed very straightforward. You ready for a motion?
First, I need to conduct a public hearing.
Got it.
Okay.
details.
And with that, I'd like to open a public hearing. Clerk Moss.
Thank you, Chair Harrington. I did not see anyone sign up in the back of the room. Would any member in the audience, Mr. Feek?
Could one of you make way for our community member? Thank you.
Madam Chair Harrington, commissioners, and invited guests in the back. I had the privilege of talking with the person that gave a presentation on Monday night, and I got to know him. We like each other already, so that's good. Just like I like Bob Terry very much. We disagree a lot, but we can talk and we're friendly. I appreciate that. Now, after saying my introduction, after listening to work sessions on the budget as much as I can understand the details of it all, I appreciate the hard work that the staff has done putting together a budget with the administrator, Ms. Angie, as they say, but Tanya, Angie, and staff. I appreciate their hard work and their diligency in detail necessary to write a budget. Therefore, I support the motion.
Thank you.
All right, would any other member of the audience wish to provide comment at this time? Not seeing any raised hands or anyone in the room. Would any member online wish to provide public comment on this supplemental budget item? As you've heard from staff, just give you a moment to utilize raise hand function. Not seeing any hands. Chair Harrington.
All right, thank you, Clerk Moss. And with that, I will close tonight's public hearing and ask for a motion to approve the resolution in order to adopt the supplemental budget for FY 24-25.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, commissioners. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 4-0. And thank you to staff for all of your due diligence. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next, we'll move on to our action items. And for this next item, item E1, due to our having a budget committee meeting later this evening, we had the presentation for this item during our work session today. We had wanted to have it at tonight's meeting because the adoption of an intergovernmental agreement with another level of government is a binding contract and is due for public attention. But given the circumstances, we wanted to ensure we had time for the 30-minute second public comment period. So we had the presentation at work session today, so please refer to the video from that meeting this afternoon on the county website, washingtoncounty.org. And at this juncture, I would like to ask for a motion to authorize the chair to sign the intergovernmental agreement with Metro Regional Government for data sharing related to the Supportive Housing Services Program.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you very much. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 4-0. Thank you. Next, we'll move on to item E2 to approve the 2025 through 2029 Disability, Aging, and Veteran Services Area Plan and Area Plan Budget. This is a topic where we went through a very thorough presentation and work session. So for time, we've asked our staff to give us a condensed version tonight. This is a very important area of business that the county provides via our state authority. So I'll turn it over to our county subject matter experts. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Chair Harrington. Good evening, Chair Harrington, Board of County Commissioners. My name is Mira Samantel. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the Director of Health and Human Services. And as the Chair said, we will be given an abbreviated presentation tonight. I will turn it over to Rebecca Miller, who serves as our Supervisor for Disability, Aging, and Veteran Services, also serves as our Area Agency on Aging Director for Washington County.
Thanks, Mira. My name's Rebecca Miller, for the record. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm coming to you tonight as the Area Agency on Aging Director. So as you said, we've been here before, so I'm looking forward to just a brief update, answering a couple questions. Next slide. Tonight, I just want to touch on a couple things that came up from the work session and then request your approval at the end of the presentation tonight. Next slide. Normally, I get in trouble for going too fast. So what you see before you is a bit about the structure of the Older Americans Act. That was something that was a bit of a question. So the orange is the federal government. That's the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. And then the Administration for Community Living is who develops the rules and guidance that we follow. And they oversee the state units on aging, which is the green box. The state unit on aging in Oregon is called Oregon Department of Human Services, Aging and People with Disabilities, Community Services and Supports Unit. So it's a big mouthful. And then the dark blue is us, Disability, Aging, and Veteran Services. And then underneath the dark blue box, you'll see Title 3B, for instance, support services over on the left. This is how the Older Americans Act is allocated by title. And so we have some flexibility. We can move money between C1 and C2 and over to 3B. And that's our flexibility that we have. So just the area plan budget largely follows those boxes. So I wanted to describe that. And then you'll see lighter blue in the upper left. That's our Aging and Veteran Services Advisory Council. This is granted authority through the Older Americans Act, governed by this board through our bylaws. Commissioner Willie serves on our council and advises us there. And members are appointed by this board. And then you have the Title VI providers, the Native American services providers under the Older Americans Act, who in each of our intergovernmental agreements, we're required to coordinate with each other. In Washington County, that is Grand Ronde and Siletz. So that's a little bit about our structure. Next slide. I won't go into detail on this slide. You've seen it a few times. Just letting you know that the plan was developed with a great deal of thought and input from the community, which we greatly appreciate, and all of our partners who I failed to thank in my previous presentation too. So just a big thanks to all our community partners who were engaged in that work with us and our advisory council members for their work. And next slide. So just, again, I just want to highlight the value of the area plan and why it matters and why anyone watching this might want to read it. One, it describes the highest needs and priorities of Washington County older adults and also veterans and people with disabilities. It explains the priorities and actions of disability, aging, and veteran services in meeting those needs and priorities. It sets our course for the next 4 years, starting in July, and aids me and my team in decision-making as new opportunities, grant opportunities come up to see if they're in line with the plan, and it helps create transparency and accountability. We talked a little bit about funding, and I just wanted to put together a slide. I think it's a common question on everyone's mind. What does this look like if there are changes at the federal level? So you can see we have a mix of funding. Federal is about 40%. That is the Older Americans Act funding that sits there. And then the other match and county match is the required match in order to receive those federal dollars. The state bucket is Oregon Project Independence funds, and then contracts provide a variety of other services. There was a slight adjustment in the area plan budget. You have the corrected numbers in your packet. So this time I'm happy to address any questions you might still have. Otherwise, I'd seek your approval for the area plan.
I'll just kick off board comments and say thank you very much for the earlier slide with all the different titles, because it really does bring to life for me all of the different services, the nutrition services, getting meals, providing support for people to be more social, to gather together, just to help people thrive as people. And so that I found really helpful. Thank you. Commissioners, do you have any other questions or comments?
I do. Just very briefly, I just want to thank you and not just the Washington County team, but the entire community that you and your team engaged through this work. I think in the work session it became very clear just the scope of this work and how meaningful it is to the community overall, and frankly to people in our community that are in greater need than others. And I just want to thank you and the entire team for that work and doing such a thorough job.
Thank you.
Anything else, commissioners?
I'll just chime in so that me and Commissioner Willie are not the only ones making comments. Rebecca, you don't appear on to our board a lot, but when you do, you really bring a good news and celebratory paperwork and materials and presentations. You know, the people you serve, people with disabilities, people who are aging, veterans, these are people who have significant needs and require significant care. So I appreciate your leadership in that department. I've always felt that these are three different categories that are lumped together, and I've always celebrated the person that embodied that leadership. So kudos to you, and continue to do the good work and continue to serve our community well.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Willie. Do we have a motion to approve this 2025 through 2029 Disability, Aging, and Veteran Services Area Plan and Area Plan Budget?
So move.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, Commissioners. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 4-0. Thank you, and thank you for joining us tonight. Next, we'll move on to item E3. So, first, we need a motion to read ordinance number 906, repealing. Well, we need a motion to read it by title only. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, Commissioners. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 4-0. Ms. Duke-Dreesen.
Yes, Chair Harrington. Ordinance number 906, an ordinance to repeal Chapter 3.27 of the Washington County Code, establishing a commercial property assessed clean energy CPACE program.
Thank you. Embodied with this packet tonight and this resolution is a proposal to schedule a second reading and public hearing of this ordinance on Tuesday, June 3rd, 2025. That will give us an opportunity, each member of the board, as well as Ms. Angie, the opportunity to connect with the CPACE Alliance folks who have started correspondence with us. So that is the motion that's under consideration.
So moved. So moved, Chair Harrington.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Sorry, I have a sneeze. Clerk Moss, could you take the roll, please?
Certainly, Madam Chair. Commissioner Schneider?
Yes.
Commissioner Willie?
Yes.
Commissioner Fye?
Aye.
Chair Harrington?
Yes. Thank you. Sneeze averted. All righty. Next, we have our second public comment period of the evening. This is an opportunity for members of our community to come and speak to the board for up to 5 minutes, an individual, 30 minutes maximum.
Thank you, Chair Harrington. The first two we have is Isla Hoffler and Karen Schmidlin.
Clerk Moss, it has been requested that Isla would give up her 5 minutes, Bob Terry would give up his 5 minutes for their guest to have a total of 10 minutes. This section would not exceed the 30-minute limit. And that would be my motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second it for discussion purposes.
I'll chime in. What are you trying to do here?
Those two individuals that had signed up for 5-minute slots wanted to give their guest tonight a 10-minute total, not be limited to the 5 minutes. They're willing to give up their 2 5-minute slots for a 10-minute slot for their guest. And again, it's not to exceed our 30-minute limit for this section of public comment.
Ms. Huffler and Mr. Terry, are you agreed? Okay, there is a motion and a second. All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Any opposed? Any abstention?
Sorry, I opposed. Sorry, I was not.
Okay.
I was looking at the clerk mouse over there.
The motion
I'm
is-
so sorry, Chair Harrington. I vote no, because this is an unprecedented amendment we're making, and it's not in accordance of our rules of procedure. So I'm off guarded here, but I vote no to keep the current structure going.
Similar with mine. Just a moment, please. Clerk Moss, how many people do we have signed up?
We have currently 6 for the full 30 minutes.
Okay, let's do that then. Thank you. So first we have Isla Hoffler and then Karen Schmidlin. Did I get the right Karen tonight? Okay. The motion failed. So Ms. Hoffler and Karen Schmidlin, and then Clerk Moss will call the next two up. A 2-2 vote means the motion does not.
Well, I disagree with your interpretation of your own policy regarding special groups being represented for 10 minutes. You have in your policy that special groups can have a 10-minute period of time to speak to you.
Please start the clock.
So,
Thank you.
is that accurate or not?
I've conferred with County Council, and it's for recognized groups.
Your public communication guideline says, number 3, for recognized groups testifying at the end of a meeting, there is a 12-minute period to speak. And I'm here on behalf of CPO 14. My CPO has had a vote to have Dr. Frank represent our issues to the county tonight, and I would like to invoke my 10-minute right to speak to you. I see nothing that prevents me from speaking to you in your bylaws.
We're not preventing you from speaking tonight.
Okay, then I'd like to introduce myself as Ayla Hoffler. I'm the chair of CPO 14, a resident of rural Washington County for 50 years. And I am going to introduce Dr. Frank here to speak for us for 10 minutes concerning CPO 14's issues regarding election.
Just one moment. Could you halt the clock for a moment?
Have no fear.
Ms. Duke-Dreesen, could you speak to this matter, please?
Yes, I believe, I'm sorry, forgot your name.
Ayla.
Ayla, I believe Ayla is reading from the guidelines that do state as she read. However, those are only guidelines. They are not an adopted policy or rule of your board. The rules of your board do provide that as Commissioner Willie has made a motion to modify your 5-minute time, which you engaged in just a few minutes ago.
Yes.
So it appears we have a discrepancy. If you have this handout to tell people what they're allowed to do, and then you have a different set of rules if you just want to decide we can't talk, it doesn't make sense.
Restart the clock, please. Ma'am, you have 3 minutes and 45 seconds left to address the board.
Can we have a revote?
I'd like to revote now that the commissioners have heard that your public presentation from Washington County says that we are entitled to do this. Yes.
Ms. Duke-Dreesen,
And
as
maybe
you
we
just-
can get a clarity for next time. But, you know, tonight I'm asking you to respect this handout that you give the public.
Thank you, Ms. Hoffler. As Ms. Duke-Dreesen mentioned correctly, those are guidelines, they're not rules. You're interpreting them as rules tonight. So if you'd like to use your remaining time, you may do so.
What is the difference between guidelines and rules, please? I am unclear.
This is not a time for debate. This is an opportunity for you to share your comments with us. Thank you.
Okay, well, you need to hear from Dr. Frank, and I yield my time to him.
We don't have any provisions for yielding time, and as I understand it, Mr. Frank is one of the presenters who is signed up to speak tonight.
Yes, and I'm yielding my time to him because he is who's supposed to be representing my CPO, which you are denying us as a group of citizens in your county. My CPO came together and voted on this, and you're denying us the right to bring this to you. So please let it be documented in the record.
Thank you.
For your guidelines being meaningless.
Thank you. Ms. Schmidlin.
I would like to yield my time as well. Thank you.
Clerk Moss, who's next for 5 minutes?
We have Douglas Frank, followed by Bob Terry.
Thank you. You each have 5 minutes.
All righty. Sorry about the clumsiness at the beginning here. Thank you for the opportunity to talk to you. I've just spent 8 hours with your local citizens teaching them how to find fraud and illegal behavior in your local elections. I've been traveling the country for 4 years, almost continuously, teaching people these strategies. I started my work in the state of Pennsylvania at the request of the legislature there. I learned what I learned I couldn't unsee, and so I've been teaching that around the country. Mr. Lindell made a series of documentaries that featured me and my work, and so suddenly everybody knew who I was, and I've been going around the country doing that. We are headed for some really interesting times in Oregon, and I wanted to make you aware of that, and I wanted to give you a recommendation. What's happening is you're being sued right now by Judicial Watch for illegal voter rolls in your state, and they're going to win that case. I've seen this all around the country. Your voter rolls, as will be demonstrated very shortly by your own citizens, are illegal and out of compliance with federal standards. And Judicial Watch doesn't just sue willy-nilly. They deliberately choose where they are going to sue, and they have not yet lost one of these cases. So that's one thing you have coming down the pike. Second thing coming down the pike is we're several counties in Oregon. I've just spent a week here talking to several of them. They're about to come forward with actual documentable fraud in your elections, unassailable cases of fraud that will confirm what the Judicial Watch lawsuit is going to be proving in court. So that's the second thing. Third thing that's about to happen to you is the President of the United States is about to make it a federal law that you have to have your elections on single day on paper with photo ID, and you're not going to be able to do your mail-in voting thing. So suddenly you're about to be in a situation where you're out of compliance with federal law. So what are you going to do about it is the question. And I've learned a really interesting strategies. I've traveled the country. And what that is commissions like you, who you need to be responsive because you have to deal with these things. What do? We can't have these discussions in a mere 5 minutes. So I'm going to recommend something to you. I'm going to recommend that you establish what's called an election commission. You each appoint somebody, volunteer, so it doesn't require a budget, from your community to represent your interests, and we can have hearings in public sessions. I've participated in many of these around the country. You can bring in me if you like to talk, maybe 30 minutes and explain some things. You can invite in various election companies. You could invite in Clear Ballot. You could invite in Dominion. You could invite in ES&S, all these various election companies to consider the arguments in a more serious, rigorous way. And then this board that you establish can make, after public discussion, after, not just 5 minutes at a time, that can come to you and make recommendations that you can vote on. Because you're going to be in this situation. you're going to be put in this interesting position. The question is are you going to be caught flat-footed, or are you going to be prepared? So I'm encouraging you to take proactive action rather than reactive action. Form a commission, form a board, begin investigating. And during that time of investigating, you're going to find some things. You're going to discover that you do have amazingly dirty voter rolls. We're going to bring it and show it to you. Statewide, you have more people in your voter rolls than you have voting age people. That cannot be a real situation. That must mean your voter rolls are dirty. A typical clean voter rolls is about 70% of your eligible population is in there. So and it's not just me saying that. Ironically, I was addressing the Coos County officials last October here in Oregon, the very day that your governor admitted that your election system was illegally registering non-citizens to your rolls. So it's not just me saying it's publicly. And then another thing that's ironic here, I'm in Washington County, is that I testified in the Tim Sipple case a couple of years ago here in your state. And during that case, your own clerk at that time, your former clerk, admitted that she's the one who connects your machines to the networks. And the federal law specifically addresses this. Federal law says if your machines have the capability of connecting to the internet, they cannot be used during federal elections. So you're in violation of that law. So, and I can go down the list. I've got a whole bunch of things, but I don't even have to argue these points. Your state has already admitted them. Your Secretary of State, your AG, have already admitted that your machines are hackable because of the Tim Sipple case, the information in that. So I don't even have to argue this point. So I guess what I'm encouraging you, and I'm encouraging you to think ahead a little bit, because federal investigators are about to arrive in your state. And they're going to be exposing all of this, and you're going to need to make decisions in order to hold trustworthy, secure elections, and you're not prepared for that now. So that's my recommendation to you, and I'm free. I don't charge anything for any of the work I do. I'd be delighted to come back at your invitation. Thank you very much. Right on the money.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Terry.
Well, this is not what I had actually prepared to say, but I'm going to say it very clear. And as much as I like to get excited about it, I'm calm about it. For you, Madam Chair, yeah, I know, you don't really care what I say, but everybody else is going to listen anyway. Nafisa, I'm sorry you didn't vote yes. Mr. Willie and Mr. Snyder, thank you for your vote of confidence and your voting of yes. We have been coming before you now since October 1st. We have presented you facts all along the way. And for you to turn somebody down, presenting themselves within your policy that you yourself have created and we showed a print of here, is just unbelievable and very embarrassing to me, to this county. And I certainly hope that everybody in this county views tonight and many of the other recordings that we have been made of these proceedings and learns from the lesson that has been taken. You know, I have been coming to before this or been a part of this board up until 6 years ago for 24 years. 24 years. I've never seen a board of commissioners with its leadership act as this board has, and it's very embarrassing to me. And you may laugh and schmuck today and snuckle, but you will not be in the future. You heard Dr. Frank, and I'm telling you, what he's telling you is true. It is coming, and you will be happy when it gets here, or at least a bunch of us will be. So I'm sorry for you guys, and I'm sorry that I have to sit up here in front of you and say this, because this is a county I've been a part of and proud of from the day I arrived here, and I have many accomplishments myself in this county. For example, 24 of the 23 years I was on your budget committee, we had a black budget, and when I left, we had 24% of our budget of $1,600,000,000 in the bank, cash, with zero obligation debt. You cannot say that today. And you can blame it on the Secretary of State and the state of Oregon and the benefits and everything else you want to. It's a matter of managing your business just like anybody else has to in their business. You can pass all the taxes you want. I'm telling you, this state is tired of being taxed to death, and you're going to see some changes. And this county is going to see some changes, and unfortunately, they will not be very much to be proud of. We have never had roads in this county, as long as I've lived here, that are as in poor shape as they are today, and it's not because of our LUT department. It's because of what has taken place elsewhere here. That is one of the most things that I hear about from more people than anything else in this county other than our state voting and the way we vote. And I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. As being a member of this county, as long as I have, and of this body, and to see what we're taking place and listening to here tonight. Thank you for your smile, Chair, because I appreciate it, but nobody else in that camera up there who's got their eye on you appreciates it that much. Thank you all very much, and I'm sorry, really sorry. But I hope in the future to be able to work with you because you've got some very tough times coming that I hope to play a whole bunch of role in it that I hadn't probably intended to before. Thank you, and good night to you all. I'm sorry.
Mr. Terry, I was going to thank you for your 8 years of service on the Washington County Board of Commissioners.
Oh, that's quite all right. Do you want to forget about the other 22 years I ran the Budget Committee? Thank you very much for your sharp recognition.
No, I'm just thanking you for the 8 years of being a board member. That is all.
It comes from your heart, I know.
Right. Next, Madam Chair, we have Dawn Wright, followed by Janet Bailey.
Thank you, Ms. Wright. Is Janet here? Did you want to come? Great, thank you. Go ahead when you're ready. We have your information.
Thank you. I would like to thank Chair Harrington, the Budget Officer, and County Commissioners for allowing me to speak. My name is Dawn Wright, and I'm representing the Washington County Child Support Department. I'm speaking out in objection to the dissolving of the Washington County Child Support Department in the name of budget reduction. I had sent in my testimony by email, as it was quite lengthy, and I hope you have had the opportunity to read it. I've worked very hard for the Washington County Child Support Department for 21 years to be exact. I pride myself in being able to say that I served my community well. Our clients are typically single-parent households, and these funds are critical for meeting basic needs such as housing, food, clothing, and education for these families. We are here to help the children of Washington County. We are here to make sure that they are supported financially in order to thrive in our community. Washington County Child Support Department values our clients, and we are proud to say that we are the #1 in collection out of the entire state. We are #1 time and time again. This makes us feel worthy of our clients, our community, and our employer. We're dedicated servants trying to provide the best services we can to one of the most underserved groups of people. I request that you please reconsider this proposal of dissolving the Washington County Child Support Department. Our department not only serves single-parent households, it also employs the very people we are trying to serve. How can we even consider hitting the same individual twice financially, as well as creating mental anguish? First, they're struggling as a single-parent household, and now you're going to make them unemployed as well. That just doesn't make sense. The Washington County Child Support Department generates substantial returns in collection for our underserved community members. The federal government reimburses 2/3 of the collection for the costs that it takes to run the department, making this department likely the most costless department in the county. Cutting this department could ultimately cost more in the loss of revenue than it saves in budget costs. What you're ultimately proposing is a shift of buckets of money, the county fund, then to the state fund. This is not cost savings, it's just reallocating, as well as burdening our taxpayers, community, and employees. Why wouldn't you want to keep a department that gives you bragging rights for the entire Washington County, as you have a department that is #1 out of the entire state, year after year, with the most dedicated and caring employees, and it's inexpensive to run? Wouldn't you want to pride yourself and us in the process of having compassion for our community. Please, again, I am requesting again that you reconsider this proposal of dissolving the Washington County Child Support Department and look for cost cuts in other areas. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Ms. Wright. Just for clarity, we do not yet have a proposal before us, such as you're representing. Ms. Angie, our county administrator, who's also our budget officer, is continuing to work on details of bringing us a balanced proposed budget on April 28th. And she may be utilizing this as one of the difficult choices that she proposes to us. So I just wanted to clarify those points. But we did receive your 4 pages of information, which is fine. It's in our record and in the constituent report, and we have tonight's information as well.
Okay,
so thank you,
Chair Harrington.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am, please go ahead.
Hi, I'm Janet Bailey. I've lived in Washington County for 25 or 30 years. Well, here we are again. Tonight you've seen concrete facts proving without a shadow of a doubt that Washington County is using a fraudulent voting system. We have spent months and months presenting cold, hard, indisputable facts to you and asking for action from you. We have been polite in speaking to you, commissioners, yet you sit staring at us with blank looks or smirks on your face. It is widely known throughout the country that Oregon is allowing illegal voting and has the worst voting system in our nation. We are narrowing down to commissioners now. Washington County's blatantly and willingly violating federal and state election laws. You are forcing Washington County to be non-compliant with the laws of our country. On an average, in Washington County, 1 out of every 3 voters registered doesn't belong there. Washington County is littering the pavement with ballots. It reminds me of a child playing with confetti, throwing ballots everywhere. You are laying out every cheater's need and showing them how to cheat on our elections. The sad thing is, this is the way you are running our county. It's not a joke. You are violating our constitutional rights, and we don't like it. In addition, the voting machines in Washington County have broken down time and time again. Voting machines are connected to the internet. They can be hacked. Algorithms can be tampered with and set to favor certain candidates. We are asking you, Washington County Commissioners, to please join us as a home rule county to help pave the way for transparency, fair and honest elections. Citizens have lost confidence in our election system. We advocate protecting and defending our American values by supporting and ensuring that we have freedom, prosperity, and the opportunity to elect our local, state, and federal officials through an honest, transparent, and fair election. Today, we are asking you, to insist that our county sheriff clean the voter rolls and assign case numbers to them. Required ID showing address and citizenship. Stop registering voters motor voter. We want voting in person at our local precincts. Ballots calculated and tallied in our precincts on election night. Then completed ballots secured and taken to Salem by a Brink-type courier. We are not going away. You've got lawsuits that you're facing. Come on. We are not going away. We are calling you to action. Without fair and honest elections, we're sunk. Stop violating our constitutional rights. Please hear us. Please help us. Please join us. Thank you.
Thank you. Clerk Moss.
Madam Chair, that completes all the people who signed up for tonight.
Okay, great. Next, we'll move on to board announcements. We're not going to be having any board meetings next week, with it being the spring break week here in Oregon. The week of April 1st, or Tuesday, April 1st, we'll start with our work session at 9, convene our Housing Authority Board of Directors meeting at 9:30. Our board meeting will follow that. I have immediately following that approximately 10 a.m. And then we'll reconvene in work session likely at 1 o'clock. Tuesday, April 8th, it's work session day. That'll start at 9 a.m. Monday, April 14th, we'll have our Budget Committee's orientation at 6 p.m. On Tuesday, April 15th, we'll start with our work session at 9, pause that, go into board meeting at 10, and then reconvene the work session afterwards. On Tuesday, April 22nd, we'll have a work session in the afternoon starting at 2 p.m. and a board meeting at 6:30 p.m. And then on Monday, April 28th, we'll have the proposed budget presented to us by our budget officer, Ms. Tanya Angie, at the Budget Committee meeting starting at 6 p.m. And that's the month of April. So, are there any other board announcements tonight? Seeing none, I would ask for a motion to adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, commissioners. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 4-0. And I'll see you all in, what do you need, 5 or 10 minutes, Clerk Moss? Okay, we'll see you at 7:52 on Zoom for our Budget Committee meetings. Thank you.